Now, I'd like to think about some examples to give us ideas on what could, how to think about improving. And one example outside the region that came to our mind is the European Environment Agency and its accompanying observation network. And this is important to note, this is actually completely different from the EU's Directorate General of the Environment. So Directorate General focuses on regulation and enforcement, but the Environment Agency is actually focusing on environmental information and capacity building, and it's not dealing with regulation. And countries tend to like this quite a bit. It's also important to observe that while it's actually part of the EU, but actually it includes non-EU members such as Turkey, and which contribute funds. So actually 5 out of the 32 members are not EU members, and it's not completely governmental, but they work with national focal points, including 1,000 experts, and this tends to reduce the administrative burden on the countries. So there are a lot of, even though we tend to think of European countries as more advanced, there are a lot of European countries that also have governmental capacity issues, and so this is quite, they find this actually quite helpful. And then if we look here around in the region, we have the ASEAN Secretariat's Environment Department, which is trying to do some of these things, but since they only have about 5 people working there, it's a big effort. They managed to publish the State of the Environment report every few years. But they'd still like more help with more harmonized information and more regular collection of it. And I think this this is focusing on environment, but I think many other non-environmental areas in sustainable development can also benefit from more efforts along these lines. I think another interesting one associated with ASEAN is a research institute called IRIA, Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia. This one is mainly dominated by, I think, kind of industry ministries. It has some focus on energy environment. They do a bit of environmental research, but I think we could think about establishing a similar institute for environment, or you could even broaden it to include sustainable development. In Northeast Asia, interestingly, although their countries may be more developed, but the level of institution is less, but the tripartite environment ministers meeting also provides a kind of framework to be used for various projects and information sharing. So our proposal for how to strengthen governance, we're thinking about 2 stages. One is there could be a capacity and information sharing platform. This could be regional or sub-regional, and it could complement existing multilateral agreements and help to coordinate existing mechanisms. And some focus areas could be climate change or resilience or biodiversity. So we think this could greatly improve the efficiency and reduce the cost and increase effectiveness. It will still be more voluntary and not getting to the regulatory stage. And this is a kind of diagram for how this could work. And then stage 2, in the much more long run, we could think about an Asia Environment Organization or agency, which in addition to information collection and harmonization could work more on scientific capacity building or joint policy studies, or even try to coordinate policy. I think it's really important that the economic integration kind of moves in speeds up and slows down, but it's important for the environmental dimension to keep up with the economic dimension in trade liberalization. So this could be one way to do it. And it should be, actually, the idea, may be nice in theory, but there are a lot of practical questions, of course, that we have to think, where would you locate these and make sure they're not dominated by one country, and how they're going to work with the existing institutions and frameworks, and how to include multi-stakeholder participation, and who's the member, and is it regional or so. Anyway, a lot of detailed practical questions. But anyway, we wanted to throw out the idea, but still, I want to get to this idea of the economic integration. So in contrast to some other regions where trade liberalization has been accompanied by like environmental impact assessments and sustainability impact assessment to make sure that trade liberalization is not harming them. In Asia, maybe it's a bit slower in this front. So I think that when we think about stronger institutions, it's important to make sure that sustainable development and environment are kind of keeping up with the economic integration. Or you could even think about sustainable development or environment as the leading area of integration, maybe going faster than economic integration. And if we think again back to the situation of Europe, that's actually what happened in Europe in the 1970s. The environmental cooperation was the leading edge of détente between the East and West blocs. So my time is up, so thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mark, for the presentation. You have covered the wide range of the very interesting aspect in the context of regional implication. Now, let me invite the next speaker as a discussant, Dr. Surendra Shrestha. He is the Director for Sustainable Development Goals at the UN headquarters in New York. We are very happy to have him as the discussant. And he is playing a central role in the toward Rio Plus 20, as well as the following up of the Rio Plus 20 outcome. I am very much looking forward to the hearing his candid observation, as well as comment to the remarks presentations made by panelists based on your professional background for our further discussion. Surendra, you have the floor, please.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to follow your guidance and make two sets of comment. First, at the global level on what the panelists have said, and also then second, on the regional aspects of governance. First, I think IFSD is institutional framework or governance for sustainable development. If we look in the recent history, we came out of the beginning of the century, out of the Millennium Summit and out of Joburg with poverty as the overarching goal. And if we look at institutions in UN and institutions like the World Bank or our own Asian Development Bank, it took them about 6 months to a year to have this as their overarching goal. Now, what we have come out of Rio is that the overarching goal is sustainable development. So this is the frame, as it were, as the overarching goal. And the governance or institutional framework is to deliver that sustainable development